As the HOA president of his community, he demanded that everyone in attendance at meetings stand up and salute him. When they refused, he had them arrested. This is our HOA president. Our story today begins in the great state of Texas. John Sterling was the proud owner of a home in a gated community in the Dallas area. He'd saved 4 years to purchase his dream house and planned on living there for the rest of his life. That was until he found out about the Homeowners Association. The HOA was full of rules and regulations and fined anyone who didn't abide by them. For example, one of the rules stated that no resident could park their car on the grass, and when John mowed his lawn and the clippings fell onto the road, he received a warning letter from the HOA, because apparently that was against the rules too. He also found out that every month he had to attend an HOA meeting to make sure everything was going according to plan. But little did he know what was waiting for him there. At the first meeting he attended, John sat down with a cup of coffee, only to have it spilled on him. "What happened?" he asked, looking around. That's when he saw the president of the HOA, Ronald Reagan look-alike, standing up and giving a salute. All the other residents stood up and saluted too, except for one elderly woman. She simply looked confused. "Why are we doing this?" John asked. But before anyone could answer, the president took over. "This is how we conduct ourselves here," he said, pointing to John. "Are you going to salute or are we going to have problems?" "I don't think saluting is necessary," John replied. "We're not in the military." "Don't be disrespectful," the president warned. "Now, do you want to salute? Or do I need to call security?" "You can call whoever you want," John replied, hoping that he wouldn't be thrown out of the meeting. But he was uncounting on the fact that all the other neighbors were willing to participate in this charade. They all stood up and began to chant, "Salute, salute." They continued until John felt uncomfortable and just gave in. He stood up and gave a quick salute before sitting back down. After the meeting, some of the neighbors approached John. "What's your problem, man? Why didn't you just salute?" one of them asked. "I just didn't feel like it," John replied. "It's ridiculous." "Oh, come on," another neighbor said. "It's not that big of a deal." "Yeah, but I'm sure there's a fine for not saluting," John said, smiling. "How much do you think it is?" "Probably $20, the neighbor replied. So the next month, when John arrived at the meeting, he wrote a check for $20 and handed it to the president as he entered. The president looked at the check, then at John. "Is this for your late-night snack?" he asked. "Because we don't accept checks for fines here." "What fine?" John asked, hoping he hadn't been fined for something else. "You didn't salute last month," the president replied. "That'll be $20. "Oh, right," John said. "I thought it was a joke last time. But if I have to pay..." "I'm not paying $20 for a stupid salute." "Then get ready for some real problems," the president warned. "You're going to be sorry." And John should have listened to him, because that next month he was hit with a fine of $100 for not saluting. So he went to the next meeting prepared to write a check for $100. But when he arrived, the president stopped him at the door. "You didn't pay your fine yet," he said. "I was planning on paying it in installments," John replied. "In fact, I brought my checkbook." "Installments are not allowed," the president said. "And besides, you're not writing a check for $100. You're being fined $250. "What?" John asked. "That's ridiculous." "It's not ridiculous," the president said. "It's mandatory. And if you don't pay it, you won't be allowed to attend any more HOA meetings." John knew that if he didn't pay, he would be in trouble. So he pulled out his checkbook and wrote a check for $250. That next month, John came in with his check, ready to pay his fine. But before he could, the president stepped in front of him. "You're not writing a check for $250, he said. "You're being fined $500. "What?" John asked. "Why is it so expensive now?" "Because you haven't been saluting," the president said. "It's mandatory that you do, and it's $500 if you don't." "I'm not paying that," John said. "This is ridiculous." "Then you won't be allowed in," the president said. "Get out of here." And as John tried to leave, he was stopped by 2 burly men blocking the door. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" John asked. "You need to leave," one of them said. "The president doesn't want you here." "What are you?" My security, John asked. Are you threatening me? You better leave, the man said, or I'll throw you out. And before John knew it, he was pushed out the door and onto the ground. John got up and brushed himself off. You're lucky I didn't sue you, he muttered under his breath. Maybe I'll find a lawyer and sue you. Whatever you want, the man scoffed. But I wouldn't bother if I were you. We have the best lawyers money can buy. John knew they were bluffing, but decided to let it go. He went home and decided to ignore the HOA. But that next week, he received a letter stating that his water would be shut off until he paid his $500 fine. Of course, he ignored it, and that next day, John woke up to find that his water had indeed been shut off. He called the HOA office to complain, but the president wouldn't budge. If you don't pay, we'll keep cutting off your utilities, he said. Until you do, we won't turn them back on. John had no choice but to call a plumber to see if he could bypass the shut-off valve. The plumber told him that he could do it, but that it would cost him $1,500. Okay, John said, just do it. John then marched back down to the HOA office and paid his $1,500 fine. When he got home, he installed a new sprinkler system that used recycled water, which the HOA had to pay for. He also put in a pool and hot tub, and just to spite the HOA, he started having parties every weekend. He invited all his friends and neighbors over to use the pool, hot tub, and enjoy the parties. One day, John was having a barbecue when the president of the HOA showed up. Why haven't you been attending the meetings? He asked. Oh, I don't know, John said, flipping a burger. I was busy installing my new pool and hot tub. Oh, really? The president said, taking a seat. Well, that sounds fun. Yeah, it's a lot of work, John replied, handing the president a burger. But it's worth it. I bet, the president said, taking a bite. So why haven't you been paying your dues? Oh, I don't know, John said, winking at the camera. Maybe because you're such a jerk.